Welcome to Books Arena, the place where we break down powerful books in a simple, spoken style. In today's video, we're exploring a book that will change how you see your own mind. It's called The Idiot Brain, written by neuroscientist Dean Burnett. Now, don't be offended by the title. This book isn't calling you an idiot. It's actually about how all of our brains are flawed, biased, emotional, and often completely illogical. You might think your brain is a supercomputer. But the truth is it's more like a messy, emotional roommate who forgets things, panics for no reason, overreacts, and often lies to you, without even realizing it. From forgetting names, to feeling anxious for no reason, to misremembering facts, this book shows how your brain works and how it often fails you, not because it's broken, but because it evolved to protect you, not to be perfect. It's funny. It's science-backed. And more importantly, it helps you understand why you do what you do even when it doesn't make sense. By the end of this video, you'll not only laugh at how weird your brain is, you'll learn how to work with it instead of always fighting it. So, let's begin our journey inside the world's most powerful and most ridiculous machine. The human brain. Part 1, Why the brain isn't designed to be rational. Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you came in? Or had a conversation where you were sure you were right until you weren't? You're not alone. And no, you're not broken. This is just how the brain works. And it's the first major point in the idiot brain. Your brain isn't built to be logical. It's built to survive. Let's take a step back. The human brain is incredibly complex. It's made up of billions of neurons and trillions of connections. It can solve puzzles, write poetry, and launch rockets. But that same brain also falls for optical illusions, makes irrational choices, and panics over things that aren't real. Why? Because evolution didn't design your brain to make perfect decisions. It designed your brain to keep you alive. Back when our ancestors lived in forests and faced wild animals, the brain had to make fast decisions, not perfect ones. If something rustled in the bushes, your brain didn't ask for evidence. It just screamed, "Run." And that might have saved your life. That's why we have emotional shortcuts built into the brain. These are also called cognitive biases. For example, you remember emotionally charged events more vividly, even if they're inaccurate. You overestimate danger. You trust your gut feelings, even when they're wrong. Let's look at real-life situations where this shows up. Imagine you get a message from your boss that just says, "Can we talk?" Immediately, your brain might jump to conclusions. Did I mess up? Am I in trouble? What if I'm being fired? Even though there's no evidence, your brain fills in the blanks, and often with negative thoughts. That's because it's wired to expect the worst, not to stay calm and logical. Another example, let's talk about risk. People often fear flying more than driving. But statistically, flying is much safer. Still, the brain says, "You're not in control. You're in a metal box in the sky." Panic. That's the brain choosing emotion over fact. It feels more dangerous, so your brain treats it as more dangerous. This disconnect between logic and emotion shows up in small ways too. You forget where you put your phone, but you remember a song from 10 years ago. You ignore long-term consequences and choose short-term pleasure. You feel insulted by someone's tone even if they didn't mean anything by it. Here's the truth, your brain is not a perfectly organized machine. It's more like an old building that's been renovated again and again. Some parts are fast and modern. Others are outdated and clunky. The front part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, helps you plan, think logically, and make decisions. But it's constantly being interrupted by the older, emotional parts like the amygdala. So even when you want to stay calm, your brain might send out alarm bells. Dean Burnett compares this to having an overenthusiastic bodyguard living in your head. The bodyguard wants to protect you, but sometimes it punches people who mean no harm. So what can you do? You can't rewire your brain overnight. But you can understand it better. And that's where this book and this video becomes useful. Once you realize that your brain isn't designed to be rational, you can stop expecting it to be perfect. You can start catching your brain in the act. Next time you jump to conclusions or panic unnecessarily, take a breath and ask, is this a real danger, or just my brain trying to protect me? Do I have evidence, or am I filling in the blanks? Is this a fact, or a feeling? The more you practice this, the more power you have over your own mind. Because understanding your brain doesn't make it perfect. but it helps you make better choices, even when your brain is acting like, well, an idiot. Part 2, Memory, Myths and Misfires, approximate 800 words. Let's play a quick game. Think back to your first day of school. Can you picture what you wore? Who you talked to? How accurate do you think that memory is? Chances are it's not very accurate at all. And that's what this part of the idiot brain is all about. Your memory is not a recording device. It's messy. It's emotional. And often, it lies. You might think your brain works like a hard drive storing facts and moments like files. But according to neuroscience, your memory is more like a storyteller. It mixes facts with feelings, guesses with gaps, and it rewrites old stories based on how you feel today. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine you once had a job interview that didn't go well. At the time, it just felt awkward. But years later, when you think about it again, your brain might exaggerate how bad it was. You might think, I was sweating, stuttering, the interviewer looked disappointed. Even if that wasn't true at all. Why does this happen? Because every time you remember something, your brain reconstructs the memory. And every time it reconstructs it, it might slightly change the details. It's like making a photocopy of a photocopy. Eventually, the original gets blurrier. This is why eyewitnesses in court often give conflicting stories. They're not lying, their brains just filled in the blanks with whatever made the most sense emotionally. Memory is also tied deeply to emotion. That's why you remember the embarrassing moment from school, but not what you had for breakfast yesterday. Or why a certain smell instantly reminds you of your grandmother's kitchen. Emotion makes memories stick, but it doesn't make them accurate. Now let's bust a popular myth. People often say, I have a photographic memory. But science shows that's extremely rare, and even those who have it are still prone to memory errors. Most of us just have regular human memory full of gaps, assumptions, and biases. Let's look at another everyday situation. You meet someone new. They tell you their name. 2 seconds later, gone. You already forgot it? You might think you have a bad memory. But the truth is, you never really stored the name in the first place. Your attention was elsewhere, maybe on what you were going to say next, or how you looked, or just social anxiety. This brings us to a key idea. Memory depends on attention. If you don't pay attention to something when it happens, your brain doesn't save it properly. It's like trying to download a file without internet, it won't work. That's why multitasking is terrible for memory. If you're trying to listen to a podcast, reply to messages, and scroll Instagram all at once, don't expect to remember much. Dean Burnett also explains that your brain naturally prioritizes meaning over detail. So instead of remembering every word someone said, your brain stores the overall feeling: she was upset, or he was excited. It's efficient, but not always reliable. So how can you improve memory? The good news is, while you can't make it perfect, you can make it better. Here are some science-backed tips. Repetition with spacing. Don't try to cram. Instead, review information a few times over a week. This is called spaced repetition, and it's far more effective. Attach meaning. If something seems boring, connect it to something meaningful. Need to remember someone named Rose? Imagine them holding a rose. The sillier the image, the better it sticks. Use all your senses. Read out loud. Write things down. Create visuals. The more ways you experience something, the deeper your brain stores it. Sleep. Yes, sleep. Your brain actually processes and stores memories while you sleep. If you're not sleeping enough, your memory will suffer. Be present. When you meet someone new or learn something important, pause. Focus fully for a moment. Let the brain do its job. Now here's a fun example from the book. Imagine you're at a party. Someone tells you a joke. You laugh. A few weeks later, you tell that joke to someone else, but you're convinced you made it up. That's called source confusion. Your brain remembers the information, but forgets where it came from. It happens all the time in conversations, in arguments, even in relationships. So the next time you think, I clearly remember this, pause and ask yourself, do I remember it, or do I just believe it strongly? Because memory feels real even when it's not. Dean Burnett makes it clear, your brain is doing its best with limited resources. It's trying to help you function, not be perfect. So don't beat yourself up for forgetting small things or mixing up details. Instead, be kind to your brain. And give it the right tools to succeed. Part 3, Anxiety and Fear, Why We Panic. Let me ask you something simple. Have you ever felt nervous walking into a room full of people? Or found yourself wide awake at night worrying about something that might not even happen? That's anxiety. And in The Idiot Brain, Dean Burnett explains it this way. Your brain is trying to protect you, but it often goes too far. To really understand anxiety, we have to go back in time to when our ancestors were living in caves and every day was a survival test. Back then, being overly cautious could literally save your life. If you assumed a rustle in the bushes was a lion and ran, you lived to tell the story. If you ignored the warning signs, you were eaten. The brain learned to react fast. Not always right, but fast. And that instinct still lives inside you today. That part of your brain is called the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure that's responsible for fear, threat detection, and emotional response. Think of it as your brain's alarm system. But here's the problem, the amygdala hasn't updated to modern life. It still sees threats everywhere even when there's no real danger. Let's say you're about to give a presentation. Your heart starts racing. Your palms get sweaty. Your stomach flips. The amygdala thinks, danger. Run. But you're not in danger. You're just nervous. Still, your body reacts like you're being chased by a bear. This is the fight or flight response, and it's built into all of us. Now imagine this happening not once, but over and over before meetings, social events, exams, phone calls, or even texts. That's anxiety, your brain reacting to imaginary threats with real fear. Burnett explains this beautifully. He says, anxiety is like a smoke detector that goes off every time you make toast. And let's be honest, it's exhausting. But it gets worse when we don't understand it. We start to fear the fear itself. We worry about worrying. We feel anxious about looking anxious. And suddenly, we're trapped in a loop. Here's a real-world example. Imagine you're walking into a party. You don't know many people. You start thinking, what if I say something awkward? What if no one likes me? What if I look stupid? Now your brain is full of what ifs. Your heart races, you sweat, and you think, I'm anxious, something must be wrong. But nothing's wrong. You're just dealing with a brain that overreacts to social situations, because again it evolved to care about how others see you. In tribal times, being rejected by your group could mean death. Today, it just means a slightly awkward chat. Now let's break down the common types of anxiety, and how the idiot brain explains them. 1. Social anxiety. This is one of the most common forms. It's the fear of being judged, embarrassed, or excluded. Your brain goes into hyperdrive, scanning for signs that people dislike you. You might replay conversations in your head, overanalyze how you said something, or avoid social events altogether. Why? Because your brain is trying to protect you from shame even when there's no real threat. 2. Generalized anxiety. This is that vague, uneasy feeling like something is wrong, even if you can't name it. You might constantly worry about the future, your health, your job, your relationships even when things are going fine. The brain doesn't like uncertainty. So it fills the gaps with worry. It would rather imagine a problem than sit in silence. 3. Panic attacks. These are intense waves of fear that seem to come out of nowhere. Your heart races, you can't breathe, you feel dizzy, and your brain screams, something is very wrong. But often, there's no danger at all. Your brain simply misinterpreted a signal like a racing heart or fast breathing and turned it into a full-blown emergency. Now here's the scary part, your brain can learn this pattern. If you've had a panic attack in the grocery store, your brain might start panicking every time you go there just in case. Burnett describes this as the brain being helpful in the worst way possible. So, what can you do about it? Here's the good news, once you understand how anxiety works, you can start to manage it. Your goal isn't to eliminate anxiety completely. That's not realistic. It's a built-in system. But you can turn down the volume. Here are some practical strategies. 1. Name it. When you feel anxious, say to yourself, this is anxiety. My brain is reacting, but I'm safe. Just labeling the feeling helps your rational brain take back control. 2. Breathe deeply. When you're anxious, your breath becomes shallow. By breathing slowly and deeply, you send a signal to your brain. We're okay. Calm down. Try this: inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Repeat. 3. Challenge the thought. Ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? How likely is that, really? Have I survived something like this before? Most of the time, the answers will calm you down. 4. Expose yourself gradually. Avoidance fuels anxiety. The more you avoid something, the scarier it gets. Start small. Talk to one new person. Do one small task that makes you nervous. Teach your brain that discomfort doesn't equal danger. 5. Get sleep and eat well. Anxious brains get worse with poor sleep and low blood sugar. Take care of your body and your mind will follow. 6. Talk about it. You are not weak for feeling anxious. You are human. Talk to a friend, a family member, or a professional. Even just saying it out loud reduces the power it has over you. Final thought. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to keep you safe, but it's using an outdated manual. Anxiety isn't weakness. It's your brain doing its job, a little too well. And once you understand that, you can start to respond, not just react. You can say, "Thanks, brain. I see what you're doing. But I've got this." Part 4, Sleep, Dreams, and Brain Maintenance. Let's be honest, sleep is weird. Every night, you lose consciousness for hours, lie still in the dark, and have strange, often ridiculous dreams. Then you wake up, and hopefully feel better. Why do we need sleep? Why do we dream of flying, falling, or showing up to school with no clothes? And what's really going on in your brain during all this? In The Idiot Brain, Dean Burnett breaks it down in the simplest way possible. Sleep is not laziness. It's maintenance. It's your brain cleaning up the mess it made during the day. Let's start with this: your brain is always working even when you're sleeping. You might think sleep is just about resting. But inside your head, there's a lot going on. Think of it like this. When you're awake, your brain is like a busy kitchen during lunch hour, orders coming in, dishes piling up, and chefs running around. But sleep? That's when the kitchen closes, the cleaners come in, the mess gets sorted, and things get ready for the next day. Now here's what actually happens when you fall asleep. 1. Your brain starts organizing memories. It sorts through everything you saw, heard, and felt during the day. It decides what to keep, what to throw out, and where to file it. That's why sleep is crucial for learning. If you study before bed, your brain has a better chance of storing that info. Real life example: you spend all evening practicing a new skill like playing guitar chords. You go to sleep. The next morning, you're better at it. You didn't practice overnight, but your brain did. This is the power of memory consolidation, and it mostly happens during deep sleep. 2. Your brain takes out the trash. Seriously. During sleep, the brain activates a system called the glymphatic system, which clears away waste and toxins that build up during the day. One of these toxins is linked to Alzheimer's disease. So getting enough sleep isn't just about energy, it's about long-term brain health. Dean Burnett puts it this way: sleep is like taking your brain to the car wash. 3. You dream. A lot. Let's talk dreams. Why do they happen? Why are they so random, emotional, or just plain strange? Scientists still don't fully agree, but here are some of the best theories. Theory 1: dreams are emotional processing. Your brain plays out scenarios, often exaggerated, to help you deal with feelings. That's why you might dream about failing an exam, falling off a cliff, or being chased even if those things never happen in real life. It's your brain rehearsing danger like a flight simulator for your emotions. Theory 2: dreams are memory cleanup. As the brain organizes memories, it might accidentally replay fragments of thoughts, images, and emotions, kind of like your brain's recycle bin opening up. That's why dreams often feel like a mashup of everything you recently experienced. You might see your old school, your dog, a recent movie all mixed together in a bizarre storyline. Theory 3: dreams are just noise. Some scientists think dreams are the result of random brain activity that your brain tries to turn into a story. Because your brain hates randomness, it always wants things to make sense. So even if there's no real message in a dream, your brain will invent one. Now here's the interesting part. Sleep has different stages, and they all serve a purpose. The two big ones are 1. Deep sleep, non-REM. This is when your body repairs itself. Your immune system works. Your brain organizes memories. It's like the slow, silent cleaning crew. 2. REM sleep, rapid eye movement. This is where most dreaming happens. Your brain becomes highly active. Ironically, during REM sleep, your body becomes paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams. Fun fact, most people have 4 to 6 REM cycles per night, and each dream can last 5 to 30 minutes. So yes, you dream a lot. You just don't always remember. So, what happens if you don't sleep enough? That's where things get messy. Dean Burnett is clear: sleep deprivation breaks your brain. Let's look at what suffers when you're running on 4 hours of sleep. Focus drops, you struggle to pay attention, even to simple things. Memory fails, you forget names, details, tasks. Emotions explode, small things make you angry or sad. Judgment weakens, you make poor decisions, take unnecessary risks. Creativity dies, your ideas feel flat or forced. Reaction time slows, worse than driving drunk in some cases. And here's the scary part. You don't notice it. Sleep-deprived people often say, "I'm fine." But tests show they perform terribly and they don't even realize. It's like being drunk, but without the self-awareness. Real-life example. You're studying for an exam, so you stay up till 3 a.m. You think you're gaining time, but really, your brain is too foggy to retain anything. You would have done better with 2 hours less study and 2 hours more sleep. Burnett jokes that pulling an all-nighter to learn something is like trying to fill a leaking bucket. Tips for better sleep, according to science. If you want your brain to function well, you have to give it rest. Here are some simple sleep habits that work. Stick to a schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time, even on weekends. Cut off screens before bed. Blue light from phones messes with your melatonin, the sleep hormone. Create a wind-down routine. Read, stretch, listen to soft music. Teach your brain it's time to relax. Keep your room dark, quiet, and cool. Your brain sleeps better when it feels safe and undisturbed. Avoid caffeine late in the day. It can stay in your system for hours and delay your sleep. Final thought. Sleep isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. Dreams aren't nonsense. They're brain work. And your nightly rest is one of the best things you can do for your mental, emotional, and physical health. Dean Burnett sums it up beautifully. Your brain is like a phone, powerful, impressive, but useless without regular charging. So treat sleep like fuel, not failure. Turn off the noise, respect the rest, and let your brain do what it does best when the lights go out. Part 5, Emotions, Logic, and Why We Make Irrational Decisions, approximate 1,000 words. Let's start with a simple question. Have you ever made a decision you instantly regretted? Maybe you bought something expensive on impulse. Or snapped at someone in anger and later thought, "Why did I do that?" Well, guess what? You're not broken. You're just working with a normal human brain, a brain that is far more emotional than logical. In The Idiot Brain, Dean Burnett explains one core truth. Your brain isn't built for perfect logic. It's built to help you survive, connect with others, and make quick decisions, sometimes at the cost of accuracy. Let's unpack this. 1. Emotions are not enemies, they're essential. Many people think logic is good and emotion is bad. But in reality, you need both. Your emotional brain, mostly centered around the limbic system, helps you understand what matters. It tells you what to care about, what to fear, what to fight for. Your logical brain, mainly the prefrontal cortex, helps you plan, solve problems, and think about the future. They're like a rider and a horse. Logic is the rider, it guides and plans. Emotion is the horse, it gives energy and direction. You can't move without the horse. But without the rider, the horse runs wild. Real life example. You get an email that sounds rude. You instantly feel angry. You start typing a fiery reply. But if you pause for even a few seconds, your logic kicks in. Wait, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. This moment where emotion and logic battle happens every day in your brain. 2. Why smart people still make dumb decisions. Dean Burnett shares a powerful insight. Being smart doesn't protect you from bad decisions. In fact, smart people sometimes make worse ones because they think they're too smart to be wrong. This is called cognitive bias, mental shortcuts your brain takes without realizing it. There are dozens of biases, but here are a few you'll recognize. A confirmation bias. You believe something and you only look for information that supports it. Example, you think a certain diet is the best. So you Google why this diet is best instead of does this diet have problems. Your brain wants to be right more than it wants to be smart. B. Availability bias. If something is easy to remember, your brain assumes it's common or true. Example, you hear about a plane crash on the news, so you feel flying is dangerous even though it's safer than driving. Why? Because emotionally charged stories stick in your brain more than statistics. C. Anchoring. You get influenced by the first number or detail you hear. Example, a jacket is marked 5,000 Indian rupees, but it's on sale for 2,000 Indian rupees. You feel like you're saving 3,000 Indian rupees even if you never would have paid full price anyway. The first number anchored your brain. 3. Your brain hates uncertainty. Imagine this. You're waiting for test results. You don't know whether it's good or bad. What does your brain do? It fills in the blanks. It imagines the worst case scenario. Your heart races. You can't focus. You feel sick. This happens because the brain evolved to fear the unknown. In the wild, uncertainty often meant danger. So today, even small unknowns, a delay in a reply, a weird tone in a message can trigger anxiety and overthinking. Your brain would rather imagine a problem than sit quietly with doubt. 4. The power of emotion in decision-making. Now here's something surprising. People who lose emotional function in their brain due to injury or illness often can't make decisions at all. They can think logically. They understand the pros and cons. But they get stuck. Why? Because emotion provides urgency. It tells you which option matters more. Without it, every choice feels equal, like picking a cereal brand with no preference at all. Emotion is what makes decisions personal. Real life example. You're choosing between two jobs. One pays more. The other gives you more time with family. Your logical brain lists the facts. But your emotional brain says, I want to be there for my kids. And that's what makes the decision clear. So next time you feel torn, remember, emotion gives meaning to logic. 5. The illusion of control. Another reason we make strange choices is the illusion of control. Your brain loves to feel in control even when it's not. That's why people avoid flying but are okay with driving. Even though flying is statistically safer, you feel more in control behind the wheel. Or why people prefer choosing their lottery numbers even though it makes zero difference. The brain equates choice with safety even when it's an illusion. This also explains superstitions. We knock on wood, avoid black cats, or wear a lucky shirt, all because it gives us a sense of influence over the unknown. Is it logical? No. But it's emotionally comforting. And for the brain, comfort often beats logic. 6. Emotion hijacks logic in real time. Here's something everyone has felt. You're arguing with someone. They say something that hits a nerve. Suddenly, logic shuts down. You say things you don't mean. You raise your voice. You walk away angry. Later, you regret it. Why? Because emotions activate faster than logic. Your amygdala, the emotional center, reacts in milliseconds. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinker, takes longer to respond. By the time logic shows up, emotion has already taken the wheel. This is called an amygdala hijack. And it's totally normal. So what can you do? Here are some brain smart strategies to manage irrational decisions. Pause before reacting. Even 10 seconds of deep breathing can prevent an emotional overreaction. Name the emotion. Saying I feel anxious or I feel angry helps activate logic. Question your thoughts. Ask, is this true? Is there another explanation? What would I tell a friend in this situation? Sleep on big decisions. Your brain processes emotions overnight and your judgment improves with rest. Talk it out. Sharing your thoughts with someone objective can break the bias loop. Final thought. You are not a robot. Your brain is emotional, reactive, and often illogical, and that's okay. What matters is awareness. When you know your brain's tricks, you don't fall for them so easily. So the next time you feel overwhelmed or irrational, remember. It's not you. It's your brain being, well, a bit of an idiot. And now, you know how to respond. Part 6, The Social Brain, popularity, rejection, and why we care so much. Let's start with this. Why does it bother us so much when someone ignores our message? Why do we care what strangers think of our social media posts? Why do some people fear public speaking more than death? The answer lies deep inside your brain in what scientists call the social brain. Dean Burnett explains this part beautifully in The Idiot Brain. Your brain is wired to care what other people think. It might feel silly, even frustrating at times. But this instinct is ancient and it once kept us alive. Let's break it down. 1. Your brain thinks rejection equals death. Thousands of years ago, humans didn't survive alone. We lived in tribes. In groups. In small communities where acceptance meant safety, and rejection meant danger. If you were cast out from the group, you couldn't hunt, you couldn't stay warm, you were easy prey for predators. So your brain evolved to treat social rejection as a serious threat. Even today, when someone unfollows you or excludes you from a group, your brain sends out pain signals. The same regions that process physical pain light up during social pain. Yes, being left out hurts just like being punched. At least to the brain. 2. Popularity equals power, at least, that's what the brain thinks. In modern times, popularity seems superficial. It's easy to roll your eyes at influencers, likes, or viral trends. But the brain still sees popularity as status, and status used to equal survival. The more allies you had, the better protected you were. The more admired you were, the more resources you got. So your brain naturally craves approval. Think about it. Why do we get that little dopamine hit when someone likes our post? Why do we smile when we're praised, and shrink when we're mocked? Because social approval feels like safety. Disapproval feels like threat. It's not vanity. It's biology. 3. The fear of embarrassment. Now let's talk about one of the most common and strange fears, embarrassment. Why does the thought of saying something wrong in public terrify us? Why do we avoid asking questions in class, even when we're confused? Because your brain is constantly scanning for signs of social judgment. This is what psychologists call the spotlight effect, the feeling that everyone is watching you, judging you, noticing your mistakes. In reality, most people are too busy thinking about themselves to notice your awkward moment. But your brain? It's convinced the whole room is focused on your tiny error. Real life example. You trip in public. You feel like the world just saw you fall. You turn red, feel embarrassed, want to disappear. But 5 minutes later, everyone around you forgets and you're still thinking about it. That's the social brain at work, exaggerating the threat of judgment. 4. Why we mirror people. Have you ever noticed how people start to talk like their friends? Or pick up each other's gestures? That's called social mirroring, and it's something your brain does automatically. When you spend time with someone, your brain subtly copies their speech, posture, and habits. It's a way of saying, hey, we're on the same team. This builds trust and increases your chance of being accepted. It's the same reason we laugh with others more than alone, or why emotions are contagious. Your social brain is constantly trying to sync up with others. 5. Group thinking, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Humans are tribal creatures. We want to belong. But sometimes, that need to fit in can override logic. This is called groupthink, when people go along with the group to avoid conflict, even if the group is wrong. Example. You're in a meeting. Everyone agrees with a bad idea. You see the flaw, but say nothing because you don't want to be the odd one out. That's not cowardice, that's your social survival brain kicking in. In some cases, it's harmless. But in extreme situations, it leads to bad decisions, harmful behavior, or even violence. Burnett emphasizes that the social brain isn't always smart. It's just built to protect our place in the group. 6. Why rejection feels so personal. Here's something you've probably felt. You text someone. They don't reply. Even though you know they might be busy, your brain spirals. Did I say something wrong? Are they ignoring me? Do they hate me? This is called rejection sensitivity, and it's super common. Your brain can't easily tell the difference between silence and social threat, so it assumes the worst to prepare you emotionally. Even small things like being left out of a group chat, or not being invited, can trigger real emotional pain. And if you've had past experiences with exclusion, your brain gets even more alert. 7. Social anxiety and the brain. Social anxiety isn't just shyness. It's the intense fear that people are watching, judging, or rejecting you. According to Burnett, this fear comes from overactive social threat systems in the brain, especially in areas like the amygdala and insula. People with social anxiety often have strong memories of past embarrassment, and their brains replay these over and over, making them overly cautious in new situations. The solution isn't just relax. It's understanding your brain is trying to protect you but going too far. Tools like therapy, mindfulness, and small exposure can help retrain the social brain to respond more calmly. 8. Why social connection heals. Now for the good news. Just as rejection hurts, connection heals. When you feel understood, accepted, or included, your brain releases oxytocin, a chemical that builds trust and soothes stress. Hugs, eye contact, and deep conversations all send signals of safety to the brain. Even helping others makes your brain feel good. That's why acts of kindness, volunteering, or just listening to a friend reduce anxiety and increase happiness. You're not meant to go through life alone, and your brain knows it. Final thought. Your social brain is ancient. It evolved to keep you safe in small groups, where survival depended on approval and acceptance. Today, it still acts like you're living in a tribe, watching for rejection, scanning for judgment, reacting to silence like danger. That's why we overthink, fear embarrassment, and crave connection even in a digital world. But once you understand how your brain works, you can work with it, not against it. So next time your mind spirals over a message left unread, or a moment of awkwardness, take a breath. Remind yourself. It's just your social brain trying to protect you in the only way it knows how. And that's perfectly human. Let's wrap up everything we've explored today from The Idiot Brain by Dean Burnett, a fascinating, funny, and incredibly honest look at how the human brain really works. This isn't a book about perfection. It's a book about understanding, about seeing your brain not as a flawless machine, but as a brilliant, glitchy, and emotional survival tool that's doing its best every day. Here's what we learned. First, the brain isn't designed for accuracy. It's designed for survival. So when you forget something, overthink, or freeze up in front of people, that's not failure. That's the brain protecting you from imagined threats, just like it did thousands of years ago. Second, memory is a storyteller. Every time you remember something, your brain edits it based on how you feel, what you expect, or what you believe. It fills in gaps and smooths over uncertainty. That means your memories feel true, even when they're not fully accurate. Third, anxiety, fear, and irrational thoughts aren't flaws. They're part of your survival system. They kept your ancestors alive, and while they may overreact today, they come from a place of protection. Once you recognize that, you can stop fighting them and start working with them. Fourth, emotion and logic are not opposites. They work best together. Emotion gives meaning to your choices. Logic gives them structure. A wise brain balances both. Fifth, social rejection hurts for a reason. We evolved to live in groups, to care about approval, and to avoid being cast out. That's why even small social slights feel big. But knowing that it's your brain reacting to ancient patterns helps you manage it with more awareness and calm. And finally, you are not broken. You are not strange for forgetting things, reacting emotionally, or worrying too much. You have an incredibly complex brain that's just doing what it was built to do. The more you understand how your brain works, the more control you gain over your emotions, decisions, and mindset. If this summary helped you see your brain a little more clearly, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Books Arena. We break down the world's best books into clear, calm, spoken summaries to help you grow your thinking, your habits, and your life. Let us know in the comments. Which part of your brain surprised you the most today? And what book should we explore next? Thanks for watching, and remember, be kind to your mind. It's doing a lot more than you realize.